Okay, so what we're going to be looking at today is manifest destiny. And what I want you to look at first is this image. I want you to tell me what is the most central thing we see in this image.
The large woman.
The what? The large woman who's supposed to be portraying what?
Angel.
An angel. So when I think about an angel, I think, is this destined by God? Okay, so manifest destiny, one of the things that we're going to see is that many Americans are going to say this is destined by God. And we have this overtures of an angel, but there's a lot going in, and we have to look at the artist's intention. And artists do things intentionally with color. So tell me about the right side of this painting. What's up with it?
Really light.
It's really light, it's bright, and so what does that tell us, good or bad?
Good.
Good. I look at this side of the picture, and how does it look?
Dark.
So what does that tell you?
Unknown.
Unknown, it's questionable, is it good? No, bad. Okay, so there's things going on. This is the east. This is the west. And there's ways that we could tell this is the west and this is the east. Looking over here in the west, what do you see that identifies it as the west? Mountains. There's a lot of empty land. What else? Do y'all see the Indians now?
Yes.
Okay, and we see in the middle, I want us to look right here in the middle. What do we see in the middle?
People.
Who are these people? He has something over his shoulder.
Hitchhikers. No.
They're not a hitchhiker. Do y'all see right here?
Miners.
Miners. Okay, why are they going west? What do you think we're going to find?
Gold.
Gold. And so in 49, we will have a gold rush in California, hence the name of the 49ers. Okay, I want us to look right here. What do we see?
A wagon.
A wagon. So people are going to move west, and there's a reason why people move west. Okay, do y'all know which group we've talked about that moves west? Our Germans, because when they come to America, they have what?
Money.
Money, which immigrant group stays in the east?
Irish.
Irish, because they come with no money. Do y'all see this back in the periphery?
Yeah, this looks like a cattle possibly.
It's not cattle, it's a railroad. Okay, I want us to look over here. Do y'all see the stagecoach?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's look at the angel. She's carrying two things. A book, and it says Holy Bible on it. Is it destined by God that we move west?
Yeah.
There's something else in her hands. Do y'all see it?
Possible rope or string or
It's wire. Where will we see wires like this?
the telegram.
Telephone, telegraph, electricity. So are they portraying Americans moving west in a positive light?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we've seen Americans move west. Were these people titled to their land? Under Jackson, they were, right? There was two cases, Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, Worcester versus Georgia, right? And the Supreme Court said that land is theirs because what do they have? A contract. Did Jackson follow that?
No.
And so what we're going to be studying about right now is how do we move west, and eventually, when I get to the Gilded Age, is how do we move these people off their land, even though they have a new contract. So we're going to see that manifest destiny, it's been going on since colonial America. Y'all remember the French and Indian War? And they got the Ohio River Valley, and then they were told, no, proclamation line, you can't go there. Did they still move west?
Yes.
So we've been seeing westward expansion. But when we really get the term manifest destiny is in the 1840s. We're going to see that this is all chapter 17, so you don't have to write stuff down. There's a reason why. We see in Texas, there's good soil. Specifically in East Texas, where we are, we see that we have black prairie soil, which is so good for cotton. Do y'all know someone who decides to move from the Americas into Texas at this time? We did this last unit.
Casper.
Now, they were immigrants coming over. Who was leading them? Austin. Remember, it was supposed to be Moses, but Moses doesn't do it. Who does it? Stephen F. Austin, right? He brings them in. And so we're also going to see Oregon. And y'all had that on your map, right? Oregon was something shared between the British and the U.S., and it's a river valley. Is that a good area to farm? Okay, we also see patriotism. People want to move west and bring democracy. It's nationalistic. Also, we need to take it before foreign powers. And I always think about Texas. How many nations have claimed Texas? Okay, there's a lot more than 3. If you think about Six Flags, it's called Six Flags because Six Flags flew over Texas. So the Spanish, the French, Mexico, Texas, America, and then the French at least try to claim some. Yes, Six Flags over Texas. Psh, just broke your.
I realized that a long time ago after I learned all the different areas.
Okay, so
So Six Flags originated in Texas?
Wait, so
Yeah.
why is there like Six Flags everywhere else? Like, I think
because it's a
there's
company, it's a
I think it just
conglomerate.
originated in
Then
Texas.
why is it in Illinois it's called Great America? Why is it called Great America?
It's called Great America because they didn't have Six Flags. It's called Six Flags in Texas
Yes,
because
but then
they still have Six Flags.
It's like symbolizing that the company still
Because
owns
it's the
that
same
theme
company.
park.
It's the same company that owns all of them.
Like the theme park's called Great America, but it's owned by the company
Yeah.
Six Flags.
Hey, Great America. Maybe California has something else.
Yeah, and California has different ones. They're called different things. My dad's an engineer for the company of Six Flags, so.
It's like the Great America would be like the
Sorry,
name of the
person
theme
on
park.
the other side. This is exactly what happened, and I had to re-record because we're gonna have a lot of epiphanies today. Okay, so we're gonna see many people want to move to the Pacific Ocean, so we could get new resources specifically in California. We're gonna realize there's a lot of gold. We're gonna realize in Colorado in '59 we're gonna have the silver rush and Comstock lode. People want to get to the Pacific because of resources. We're also going to see this thing called the safety valve. And I have to explain the safety valve in a way that y'all can relate to it. So I always think about, like, what's the toughest, like, if we're to think about classes, what do y'all think is tougher, dual credit or AP? Okay, but if you didn't like how AP was going, what could you do?
Switch to gold.
Switch to dual credit. If you don't like how dual credit's going, where could you go? Regular. What could you do after if you didn't like how regular was going?
Drop out.
Well, before dropping out, maybe go to the Challenge Academy, right? Get stuff done. And then, well, let's just say you drop out now. Is there another way for you to obtain your high school diploma? GED. I'm not trying to give you a game plan or anything like that. Okay? But y'all have a safety valve. Okay? Y'all have a safety valve. I'm not trying to give you any game plans here.
Backup.
Okay? But do y'all get a safety valve? What would happen if you're like, you dropped out, like your only safety valve is a GED? Y'all have a lot of safety valves below you. A lot of you probably done this with colleges. You have your A college, right? And then you have your like B college. In case I didn't get in there, here's my B college, and then here's my C college, and then here's my D college, and then here's Navarro, right? Okay, I'm just, but do y'all have a safety valve? Do you get me?
Yeah, it's like a backup.
Okay, a backup plan. So I want us to think about America at this time. Do y'all get a safety valve?
Yes.
Okay, so a safety valve is that you have a plan B. So I want us to think about those immigrants in the East. Are they really liking the factory life?
No.
No, it's tough. They're not getting fed right. They're not getting taken care of. They could easily be replaced by who?
Irish.
Irish. And so a lot of them are saying, well, if I collect enough of that money, I could move which way? West. That's their safety valve. Criminals, this is their safety valve. Yes, Colton?
Was this before they put the law into where it had to be like sanitary work conditions and stuff like that, or?
Yes, I'm going to get to that when I get to the progressive era in February. I'm going to start the progressive era, and that leads to all the reforms that are going to come out. Okay, so now looking at this, do y'all get safety valve? That many people said, if I just make enough money, I can move west, and this is seen more glorious because they're going to make profit. They at least control their own destiny. Okay, so y'all get safety valve theory. Trade with Asia. Again, we've seen this since the Silk Road, right? Everybody wants to get to Asia. Okay, there's markets there. Also, the Panic of 1837. Do y'all remember what started the Panic of 1837? The bank. Jackson taking that money out and putting it in the pet banks. And people realized that if they moved west, they could start over. So all of this is going to lead to another group of people in the Second Great Awakening that really, such as the Mormons, which we had Brigham Young, right, and we had Joseph Smith, they realized their people were being persecuted and they wanted to move west, and they will move into the Salt Lake City area. We'll see other ones, missionaries, who are going to try to go west to tame the African, not the African American, but the Indian. Wait, but most of our Indian groups, the Creeks, the Chickasaws, the Choctaws, the Cherokees, the Seminoles, were they really uncivilized? No, they were civilized groups that we moved west, okay? So there's several reasons why people are pushing on this frontier. And y'all did this map. Remember that map?
Yes.
Hey, some of you forgot to put a key for your map.
He took me.
Okay.
It took me and the teacher forever to figure it out because like we figured it was a lot more complicated than what we thought or what
Yeah.
we were thinking of it as.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we originally started here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what we're gonna look at is everything from this place all the way west. Okay, we're gonna be looking at how do we acquire this stuff. And so it's gonna stem after the American Revolution, after 1783. And we know under the Articles of Confederation, I'm going back to test questions that we had missed. Remember the Land Ordinance and Northwest Ordinance? I can't move west without going back over this stuff. So the first one is the Land Ordinance. And I know in the Land Ordinance, what am I doing with the land? Dividing it up. So when I sell it, the person knows exactly where they're going, right? And the government's going to make money from this to pay off the war. There's a specific quadrant that's really important. Do y'all remember?
16.
16 is super important because they said the sale of this land is going to go pay for what? Education. And this basically sets up our county system, right? So in our county of Ellis County, the 16th quadrant is what city? Because the sale of this land went to fund public education. This is, as they move west, this is how they're going to do all the land. They're going to send someone to survey it, divide it up so that we could sell it, and this is going to set up our county system as we move west. The next one that we have on here is the Northwest Ordinance. The Northwest Ordinance basically sets up statehood. It dealt with this area, right? They said this area is tied to Congress. Are there territories today that the U.S. has?
Yes.
Yes, do y'all remember one of them? Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is tied to Congress. The second part of this says once Puerto Rico has how many inhabitants?
69.
They can apply for statehood. Has Puerto Rico taken up the second part of this?
No.
But could they?
Yes.
Okay, so those two apply to statehood. But in this area, Congress is going to butt its head in and say they're going to forbid slavery here. And as we move west, every single time we get a territorial acquisition, Congress is going to butt in its head about what? Slavery. Hello? Hey. I'll send her right now. Thank you. Alexis, you need to go to the principal. Take a pass. So this basically sets up westward expansion, right? Once they get how many people?
60,000.
They can apply for statehood, but is Congress going to try to do something to address slavery?
Yes.
Because what are they trying to keep? What are they trying to maintain?
Now,
The balance between what?
slave states.
Slave states and free states. So all of this will come back as we move west. We'll come back to these two things and we'll add on states. So our next one is Louisiana. We did this under Jefferson. Did Jefferson have qualms with this? Yes, because was it into the Constitution that he could do this? But we know that Napoleon at this time, this is before the War of 1812, and he's at war with who? Britain, right? It's France versus Britain. And he fears if the British win, is he going to have to give them this?
Yes.
And Haiti has just had what? With Toussaint Louverture.
Oh,
The revolution. And does he control Haiti anymore?
No.
So he was going to use this as a food resource for them, but does he need it? So it's either he fights the British and they gain this, or he sells it and now has money to do what?
Fight more.
Fight. And so he decides to sell it, and Jefferson really wants this, right? He says this is going to add what type of states? Is it going to be free or slave? Which would be democratic states, right? They're going to be farmer states. So he does wrestle with himself. Remember when we did that activity? Where he was like, oh, it's not in the Constitution, it's a loose interpretation, I'm negotiating a treaty without the permission, but he buys all of this. But this eventually is going to lead to the Missouri Compromise. We've already discussed this. Missouri wants to come in as a, what type of state? It wants to come in as a slave state. That this would offset the balance of 12 slave states to 11 free states. So what's the compromise? What do they bring in? Maine, which colonial America, y'all were doing that map and you always wanted to say Maine was a colony. Was Maine a colony? Which colony was so massive? Massachusetts, that they decide, okay, Massachusetts is right here, right? Well, can it really control that area well?
No.
So they decide, okay, instead of this being Massachusetts, we're now going to call this Maine and make it what type of state? Free. And this would do what with the balance?
Balance it again.
That's the Missouri Compromise, right? But the other thing, Congress is going to set a rule. They're going to come in and make this line 36-30. And what are they going to say cannot exist above there?
Slave states.
Okay, is Congress coming in and doing another precedent to keep the sectional balance?
Yes.
Yes. And this will then, we're going to see as we add more states in, this is going to come into a conundrum. Are we still going to adhere to that? What problems are we going to see? How do y'all feel about Louisiana?
Yes.
Okay, so this is stuff we're reviewing that we've seen before.
Wasn't it bought for like 5
15 million, it's about 3 cents an acre.
That's awesome.
Okay, so the War of 1812, who was the U.S. fighting?
Uh,
Britain, okay. When we ended the war, did it resolve anything? No, because what was it? A ceasefire. Do y'all remember what started this war? What issues? Impressment. What else were they doing? The British were up here. They were coming into America to what?
We're arming
They were arming the Indians because they were trading furs for guns. And so when that war ended with the Treaty of Ghent, did it resolve any of those issues?
No.
So this is why the Treaty of 1818 was created. And this is the little area above Louisiana Purchase. It was Area J on your map. That this treaty is going to set the 49th parallel as the boundary between the U.S. and Canada. So what can't the British come and do anymore?
Trade with China.
Trade with the Indians. Does this resolve one of our issues from the War of 1812?
Yes.
Okay, so now we know how we got the 49th parallel there. And we also say eventually we're going to share Oregon. Oregon will come into question later. Our next issue is Florida. Do y'all remember who was sent to Florida to calm down Florida because the Indians were going there, the slaves were going there, and they were going on spring break? Jackson. He was told to restore order. Does he go a little crazy?
Yes.
And so this is what's going to lead to Adams, John Quincy Adams saying, hey, let's take over this area. We're going to offer $5 million for the damages done. But we will take over Florida, but we also give up claims to what? Texas. Hello. Hey. I do. Mhm. Mhm. Okay, I'll send them at the end of class. Miss Cotton wants to see you at the end of class. Yeah. Right. So, are we good with Florida? We've seen this one before, right?
Yeah.
We got that we give up Texas. Okay, so now Maine. This is now new. Everything before here we've seen before. Okay, so what we're going to look at is our problem with Maine. We know Maine comes in as a free state to balance out with what state?
Slave state.
The slave state what? What's the name of it? Missouri. But our problem here really deals with the Canadians. What happens here is in the winter months, which is nearly every single month except for like
3.
May, June, July, August. Yeah, June, July, that's all the time. This river, the St. Lawrence River, freezes over. So can they get anything in?
No.
Can they get anything out?
No.
So what they want to do is they want to build a road. Y'all see this nice little road? To come to Halifax so that they could get imports in, exports out. But the problem is this area in green. Do y'all see both these areas in green?
Yes.
This is disputed territory between Canada and the U.S. They both claim it. Well, they want to start building the road. So the Canadians start claiming this land. Can they? This leads to a lot of American lumberjacks in this area getting very upset. Because when they're building this road, what are they taking down?
They're trees.
They're trees, which are they doing it in a lumberjacky way?
No.
No, and they're wasting that resources. So basically, our American lumberjacks are getting upset with the Canadians who are trying to build this road. And this almost leads to a war. Who would we be going to war with? Would it be Canada or the British? The British. And we're going to see that, do we want to have another war with the British?
No.
Because last time, did we even win that war?
No.
Okay, the first one, American Revolution, we won. War of 1812, did we win?
No.
No, it was a ceasefire. We're going to go to war again because they want to build this road. And so what happens is we're going to send two dignitaries. They send a dignitary, we send a dignitary. And we're going to propose that we have a compromise. That we will let them have 5,000 square hundred miles of this land, and the U.S. gets 7,000. Will they be able to build their road through their 5,000?
Yes.
Do our lumberjacks and the Canadians go to war?
No.
No. And this is the Webster-Ashburton Treaty. We agree to allow this, and this is how Maine gets its border today. And so the cool thing is that we get a little bit more land, and we get a discovery of a resource called Mesabi iron ore. This iron ore is something that we could use in manufacturing. It's something that we could use in weapons production. Is this going to be important by the Civil War? Okay. So do y'all get, we don't go to war with Canada?
Yes.
Okay. Our next one is Texas. Okay, do y'all remember the guy that was bringing American settlers here? Stephen F. Austin. What were some of the things that the Americans had to agree to when they were coming into Mexico? The customs, what else? The language, they had to speak Spanish, what else? Religion, they had to become Catholic. Did they follow that?
No.
Oh, also, what about slaves?
They couldn't have slaves.
Okay, did they follow that?
No.
So this is going to lead to a rebellion. They're going to say, Santa Anna, hey, we don't like this. Does Santa Anna listen?
No.
It leads to their revolution, right? It's kind of like the American Revolution. Do we have Americans come and help them? Yes. What state? Tennessee. They get their freedom, right? And we know that happens after the Battle of San Jacinto. Y'all remember that? Santa Anna is found in distress. Does he really want to recognize Texas as independent? At this time, the U.S. says Texas is independent, but do they bring it in? Why not? Why is the issue that the U.S. does not bring in Texas back then?
It would offset the balance.
It would offset the balance because many people looked at Texas and how many states could it be divided up into? 5, which would offset the balance to favor the South. So Texas becomes an independent republic. But now comes the issue in the 1844 election. Polk is running, and he's promising people we're going to get Texas or fight, and we're going to get Oregon or fight. Okay, I have to go back, look up at the wall. Y'all remember Harrison? He's a Whig. They're trying to appeal to the common man. Does he win?
Yes.
Well, he wins, but he was not allowed to talk, and he dies. How does he die? He dies of pneumonia. Why does he die of pneumonia? He gave the longest speech, so now they get this guy named Tyler. He's a Whig, but he was actually a Democrat, so does his party even like him? No. So he's sitting as a lame duck president that his party hates. And so now Polk is running this election, and everybody really likes Polk saying, hey, we're going to get Texas. We're going to get Oregon. We're going to move west. And Polk, with his party in the front hairdo and the party in the back hair. Did y'all see that he has a mullet? Right? He's business in the front, party in the back. He's saying we're going to get Texas or we're going to fight. We're going to move west. And people buy into that. He wins the election. Tyler doesn't win. He knows that Polk is popular because of what? He is promising people that we are going to get what? And so, or we're going to what? Fight him. So what Tyler does as a sitting president, he's a lame duck. He doesn't have any power. No one likes him. He decides to bring in Texas by a joint resolution. That we just get a simple majority. And he brings in Texas. But whose idea was bringing in Texas? Polk. And this is why we get a city called Tyler, Texas, and not Polk, Texas. Do y'all know where Tyler, Texas is?
No.
It's named after him because he brings it in, but was it even his idea? No, he stole his idea. He stole his thunder.
Plagiarism.
Yes. And so who is this going to bring us into conflict the moment we bring in Texas? Mexico, because what does Santa Anna feel about Texas? It's still theirs because in the Battle of San Jacinto was he forced to sign that treaty to give it up. And this is what's going to lead to war with Mexico. But before I get to war with Mexico, I have to talk about Oregon. Oregon, y'all did this on your map, right? It was something that we shared with the British. But we actually shared all the way up to this line called 5440. And we both jointly shared. But can people jointly share something? No. We're going to see the U.S. is going to have way more citizens in this area. We're going to have 5,000 to the 700 British settlers. And so how are the Americans going to feel about this area? Should the British have it or should we have it?
We should.
And if you've ever played Oregon Trail, have you ever played Oregon Trail? People wanted to get to this area because it was a rich river valley. So a lot of Americans are making the trail out here. And now this is going to lead to war. Okay, so this is the fourth time we nearly go to war with the British. But fighting has broken out with Texas because what have we claimed Texas now? As ours. So he's looking at this. Okay, should I fight for all of Oregon or should I go fight for Texas and everything west of it? What's the better gamble?
Texas.
Texas. So he's going to agree that we're going to set this boundary right here, the 49th parallel, and we give up everything north of that. Vancouver, we lose because we would rather go fight to get claims to what? Texas, because what is the #1 export item in the United States? Cotton. Does this area produce a lot of cotton? No. And also, we're in 46, and there has been tales about gold in California. We don't have gold yet. We don't have California yet. Do we need gold in our money supply? Why is gold so important in our money supply? Banks, they had loaned it all out. We had that panic. Banks need the gold so we can make what? Paper money. So we're going to decide to go to this war. And what's going to happen is the Mexican-American War, there's several reasons why we're going to war. First, Mexico hasn't paid back debts to Americans. We are also going to have another issue that Polk will send down a person to offer $25 million for this area, and it's rejected. The last thing really deals with a border incident right here. And I want us to look at this map. This map deals with that the Texans thought, what was the original border between Mexico and the United States? Mexico and Texas. They thought this Rio Grande was the border. But again, when Santa Anna signed this, was he under the best of terms? No, he was under duress. And Santa Anna is going to claim that the Nueces River, do y'all see this river that I'm drawing out? The Nut River, if you don't know what Nueces is. He's going to claim that as the border. Do we have an issue here?
Yeah.
Santa Anna still thinks Texas belongs to who? Him. And so what's going to happen is that American soldiers are going to cross over the Nueces. What is that taken as?
Threat.
A threat. Is this American soil or this disputed soil?
Disputed.
And so someone walks into disputed soil, what do you think the Mexican soldiers are going to do? And this starts a war. And there's going to be a guy in the House of Representatives. His name is Abraham Lincoln. But they call him Spotty Lincoln because they're making fun of him. They call him Spotty Lincoln because Abraham Lincoln wants to know, tell me the spot on American soil that people were harmed. Because usually if someone is harmed that's an American, we go to war, right?
Yeah.
But is this American soil? It's disputed. And Lincoln's saying, wait, did we kind of provoke this war? But what do you think most Americans at this time? Are they going to listen to Lincoln or are they going to just go into a war? And we go into this war. We're going to see that the U.S. is able to negotiate a treaty. And it's going to be called the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. In this treaty, we get our formal claims to Texas. So Texas is truly ours. We gain everything all the way to California. Are we excited?
Yeah.
Yes. Because we have heard that what exists out here. And we haven't even found about Colorado having silver yet. We're going to see we pay $15 million for this, and we say, okay, we'll pay back those people who Mexico owes. The U.S. has just grown 1/3 in size. So how does Polk look as the president? Got in Texas, got in Oregon. He has doubled the size of America. He looks pretty darn good. But this is going to lead to issues. Remember Louisiana Purchase? What was that line? 3630. Below it, I could have what? Above it, I can't have what?
Slaves.
But that only applied to the Louisiana Purchase. I have new territory now. We don't know much about the geography, but tell me about the geography of Arizona, New Mexico, hot, Utah, Nevada. It's hot and it's what? Dry, so can I have cotton here?
No.
But we don't know that, but many northerners fear, what are these going to come in as?
Slave states.
Okay, and that would upset what? The balance. So now comes the conundrum. Is it going to come in free or is it going to come in slave? So I want us to think, there's two parties. What are my two dominant parties? Whigs and... So the Whigs, I always remember, Whig starts with the...
W.
The Whigs are going to promote the Wilmot Proviso. Okay? Whigs do this. Whigs, do they want slavery or no slavery? And so the Whigs are going to say that anything that we got in this new territory, we are not going to allow slavery to exist. Who's going to get upset about this? South, because this would, the Democrats in the South, because this would tip the balance against them in the Senate. Do you think they want this to pass?
No.
It fails. But this leads to something called siege mentality. So let me talk about what siege mentality is, just like I did safety valve. How many of you think that all your teachers get together and they plan the test all on the same days, quizzes all on the same days, just so we can make your existence horrible? You have siege mentality. How many of you ever felt that everything always gangs up at you at once and the world's against you and you're fighting against the world? That's siege mentality. It's like daily, I'm sorry. Okay, but siege mentality, do the South feel that they're being attacked now? Do they feel that the abolitionists have ganged up against them? Do they feel that the Whigs have ganged up against them? Do they feel that the House of Representatives and the Senate are ganging up against them? And this siege mentality is going to lead to them thinking, should we stay or should we go? We should go. No, yeah, the song here, I started jamming out with her. They're going to start thinking we should go. We're going to see the Mexican-American War also provided a trial run of fighting for our troops, and we grew bigger. Okay, so now our last issue is they want to build a railroad. We have found gold in California in '49, and people are walking there, right? Is that going to take forever for gold to get back in our system?
Yep.
But we want to build a railroad, but there's this huge geographical feature right here. What is it? Okay, and where are most of the railroads when we looked at that in chapter 14? The north. So the northerners want a railroad to go through the north, right? But there's a problem. We do not have the development of dynamite yet. So how are we going to take down these mountains? Pickaxes. Put people out there, take it down. Is that going to take forever?
Yes.
Okay, so they're like, well, let's find somewhere with flat land. Here's where the flat land is. But do we even own it?
No.
And this would mean that the railroad would take a which route? A southern route. So this is why we offer $10 million, so we could get a railroad that will come around the Rocky Mountains into Texas and then actually comes into Waxahachie, this one. Okay? So this is why Waxahachie becomes a big place, because the Southern Pacific Railroad will come here, but not yet, not till after the Civil War. Okay? I'll talk about railroads when we get into the Gilded Age. But looking at this Gadsden Purchase, did we pay a lot of money for this little area?
Yes.
Remember I added this whole green area in for $15 million? I purchased this little piece for $10 million, because what do we want to build? We won't build it till after the Civil War. But even then, if it's in the Civil War, is this site even in the U.S.? So are we going to do the southern route? We're going to do the northern route. Okay, so that is our last territorial acquisition. And I'm going to show you a video because Jimmy Fallon does a whole spiel on